Hi guys, how you doing? Today is going to be a gorgeous day and the sun is just starting to creep over to this direction. So I wanted to do a really quick update on my vegetable garden because this area here, some things are doing really great and some things I'm not really sure what exactly is going on with that. So we're going to talk about that.
Come all you young rounders, and a story I'll tell of the promise of heaven.
Okay, so let's talk about this garden and let's talk a little bit about my history, just so you have a little better idea of my background. Before moving to Portland in 1970, we moved from a 40-acre ranch. My mother did at least a quarter to a half acre worth of gardening. We never went shopping for anything other than staples. My father, he was a welder, a builder, a farmer. I mean, the man was incredible. Both my parents were incredible. So I grew up with both horticultural and agricultural backgrounds. Now, both of my parents were self-made. And they were brilliant enough and got by with raising 12 kids doing this. So they were pretty smart. Now, as far as I am concerned, I grew up hanging out with my father more than I did with my mother. So naturally, I learned a lot of DIYs, I learned how to build, and I learned more about the farming side of things, about the grains and landscaping and building and all that other part. Now, when it comes to gardening, my mother was an expert at this, and therefore I didn't quite get it. So if you're a vegetable gardener and you are watching, please give me some help here, because for some reason these here are doing okay. They get pretty much all afternoon sun. Maybe they need more morning sun and less afternoon sun. So if you can help me with that, that would be really awesome. This part of my garden is doing fairly good, especially because most of the things that I planted in here were practically dead. And I'm surprised that they even are surviving and actually doing fairly well. So I am trying to do a lot of studying right now on gardening, on vegetable gardening, because as we all know, groceries are getting super expensive, and I want to be able to just come out here and pick something out of my garden without having to worry about going to the grocery store, especially for things like cucumber or tomatoes or squash or even celery, because I do juice a lot, and beets. So anyway, let me bring you really close so you can see these. And then I'm going to take you up on top of my chicken coop, because my tomato plant there is just doing fantastic up there. So let me bring you in this direction first, and then we'll go in that direction, because the sun is pretty bright up there right now. So in this container here, I have jalapeños, I have zucchini squash, and then I have a cucumber, and then I have some leeks. Now my leeks are doing really good. My jalapeno here, I do have a start of a jalapeno here, and then I have one little jalapeno right here and a much larger one over here. So I'm pretty excited about how my jalapenos are doing. But I do have them in the same container as my zucchini squash over here. As you can see, it has flowers. But my zucchini, they're really kind of molding. They're having some issues. And then my cucumber, I'm not really certain what's going on here. I don't know if it's producing fruit right here, but I do have flowers, but then they drop off. And this one is also dealing with some kind of mold issue. So yeah, there's something going on. Now in this container over here, I've got some Mojito mint over here. And the Mojito mint, because mint can be invasive, I actually planted it in the pot. I will later give it its own container, but for now I wanted to kind of incorporate it over here. Now these two are the colabroses are doing good, but there is something eating it, and I don't see any bugs on it, so, or snails, so I don't know what's going on there. But they're continuing to grow, so that's a good thing. And then this one here and this one here are cabbage. In here, I don't think those are going to be successful, but it was worth a try. Now, all of my red beets and my golden beets, they're doing really, really well. They're growing. So this two are golden beets, and then this one here is a red beet. And this one's a straw beet. And again, all my leeks are doing fairly well. And here is another row of golden beets. As you can see, they're doing really, really well. And then right here is my celery. And this celery appears to be doing really well. It hasn't quite gotten as big as I'd like. Now I do have two that are kind of successful and one that just lingering back there. Now these ones here are Utah green celery. So we'll see how well that all works out. But this area here gets full-blown sun all afternoon. As you can see, it's starting to get bright over here. And then as the sun travels more south, and then this will all light up. Now, as far as my tomato plants, this is a chocolate cherry tomato, and this is a maclavash tomato. Now, this is a heirloom over here. And that one here, as you can see, well, actually on both of them, as you can see, they're pretty tall. And this one's even taller. So, they're getting really tall, but they're not getting very thick stems. So I don't know what's going on with them. And they're not as green as I would like them to be. It does look like they may be dealing with some corrosives, if that's even a thing with tomato plants, because it does appear to me that it's lacking iron. So I will give it more iron and see if that helps. But I am getting some chocolate cherry tomatoes. In fact, that one's pretty ripe. I would say both of those are pretty ripe. And I do have some here and over here. So this one is producing, but it's not as profusely producing fruit like I did last year. Then I did plant another Golden Gate beet here, and then here's just some leeks on that one. And those seem to be doing very good. And also on this container, the leeks are doing fine. The golden beet is doing fantastic. But my tomato plant has not yet, to my knowledge, that I can see, has not produced not a single tomato this far. So I don't know what to think of that. I mean, it's getting flowers, as you can see, and up here, but then they're dropping their flowers and not producing. So if you can tell me what I'm doing wrong with these two, I would really appreciate it. So that, yeah, but otherwise it looks really great. I mean, my tomatoes and the foliage, I mean, they're growing, and this container is doing fantastic. Probably not as good as if I would have started it earlier, but it's still doing fairly good. And this is still doing great, even though it's dealing with some issues. Now, as far as my garden here on top of my chicken coop, it is actually doing fantastic. The tomato is a Roma paste tomato, and it is a determinate tomato plant. Now, I went and clipped all of the foliage out of it because it is just has so many tomatoes in it that I needed them to turn red and get that sun to do that. But yeah, it's just completely full with tomatoes, and they are starting to turn red, and I'm really excited because they're a good sized tomato. So let me take you up there. Okay, so the sun is in front of us, or actually south of us right now. So it's shining pretty bright in this area. So, and I apologize for the shakiness because I can't fit my tripod on top of my chicken runner over here. It's only enough room for me and I'm stretching it. But as you can see, my romaine lettuce is doing fantastic. I mean, I've already harvested some of this one, and of course the red romaine over here. I haven't done any of the leeks out of here, or the chives actually that are planted in here. I haven't touched those, but the romaine is delicious. Now, I have not tasted the tomato plants like I mentioned. I'm going to do that in a few minutes, but look at that. Look at how gorgeous that looks. So this one here is a Roma tomato paste, and it is a determinate tomato. But as you can see, I clipped off a lot of the foliage off of it because it was just filled with tomatoes, and I needed the sun to just start working their magic and turning them red, and that is exactly what's happening. Now, I am dealing with some blight on this one. So I've been trying to be a little bit more consistent with watering because I know that blight can be caused from inconsistent watering. I'm sure there's other reasons, but that is one of the reasons. And so we'll see what happens. It could be a lack of calcium, but some of the smaller tomato plants have had some blight, and we'll see if that is true on some of these that I see right now. But look at this. Look at, and I hope this isn't going to be too glary for you, but look at these red tomatoes. I mean, these ones here are ready to be picked, if you ask me. So I'm going to be picking those. Then I've got another red one here. Now, I don't see necessarily any blight coming through on these ones. I do have another red one coming up, and I have one here. It does look like it's starting to have some blight on it. So yeah, I have tossed about 3 or 4 tomatoes that were approximately this size that had blight on them. So now let me take you to this side. They could have been sitting in water too. So let me climb up there and show you the other side. And again, this might be kind of bright up here, but look at my chives. They're flowering. They're doing great. My tomato plants, they're just a ton of them. Of course, on my romaine lettuce, they're getting pretty covered up, but I pretty much harvest what was in that side. Pretty much just my green romaine is still intact, but let's see how this one's doing in the bottom. That one's doing fine. I don't see any more blight going on in here that I'm aware of. Now, the ones that had the blight actually were red already, had turned red, so that was some of the issues that I was dealing with. There are some that are right down here that I need to prop up somehow. So this garden up here by far has done fantastic. Next year I may not do a tomato plant unless I can find a trellis large enough to hold the weight, but it definitely has proven to be a great tomato spot. Now, as you can see, I do have an irrigation tube over here, and I will talk more about that when I get to my irrigation. But just really quickly, I do need to work with that, and I do need to figure out the best type of solution for this garden going forward. But just in case you had questions on how that's working out, I will touch more on that when I do that video. But for now, it needs a little tweaking.
It's the fire in the rain. It's the smile within the pain. It's the logic but insane. You cannot know from where it came. It's the way you cross the floor before you head on out the door. It's the figure on the wall. So many times I heed the call. It's the silence of...
I'm not doing this fancy. So something I love using, this is vegan, and it is a honey ginger dressing. It is just a bottle full of yumminess. Now it does have garlic in it, and it's just fantastic. Have a bite. It is delicious. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this garden is doing fantastic. And again, I will talk about the irrigation that I have up there and how it's actually working out, because I do have to tweak it a little bit and make it work a little bit better going forward. And also because I want to change the way I am doing it right now. I just wanted to get something up there really quick before I left for Mexico, just so that these didn't die. And it's working, but I need to tweak it and get it to working a little bit better and kind of come up with a better concept for next year, which I will do that in the fall. So anyway, that's gonna do it for me, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. But most importantly, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. And you guys, get up, get out, get active. Get yourself a garden, even if it's in a bucket. Okay. Love you. And I will see you when I see you on my next video. Bye-bye for now.